Start recording, go live, give it a second. Firehouse Vigilance Weekly Scrap. It is number 58. Special guest tonight is Sean Duffy. He has been a student of this craft for the last 16 years, currently in the city of Venice, in Florida. He is the co-founder of Build Your Culture, a topic I'm excited to jump into with him. He has developed courses such as Searchable versus Survivable, Educated Decision Making on the Fireground, and Build Your Culture, Professionalism or Minimalism. I'm telling you, put those titles on a poster and I am buying tickets to go to that conference. So he has the paper, the instructor, the fire officer one, the live fire instructor. He has taught around the country at various conferences. He is an active fool, co-host, I'm getting there, I promise, of the Make Do Suburban Firefighter podcast and the Unlock Your Culture webcast. Good Lord. My man, Sean Duffy. I try to condense people's bios. I really do, but you are single-handedly trying to leave it better than you found it. And it's my pleasure to have you as the guest on Weekly Scrap number 58.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. So I appreciate the invite.
I'm really excited, man. This is gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great.
Everyone watching live, they're logging in and getting in here. Everyone watching live. If you have questions for Sean or myself, please don't hesitate to send comments, questions, whatever you got, so that we can field them and throw them back at you. Did I miss anything in the bio? Anything you want to add?
No, no. This month marks 16 years for me in the fire service, and man, it went by so quick. So I'm having a blast, and hope to have 16 or more good years behind me as well.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. At least 32. Is that what you're saying? You're committing to 32?
Yeah, at least.
At least.
I'm having too much fun, man. I can't stop.
Dude, when I started, I said I was going to go 38, and I don't know if I'll make it there.
Yeah.
But that's a great goal. So I've been starting off with this recently, and that is 2020. It's the craziness that is 2020. How has it affected the fire service in your neck of the woods? How has it affected you? And go ahead, and I'll lead off with that.
Oh man, it's impacted me personally, just probably like much of anybody else would, right? Everything kind of got really tight. There's not much to do. Fire service wise, I like to train. I like to hang out with people that go to conferences and stuff too, just because I always have to be stimulated.
Right.
And I like to learn new things. So that was the biggest thing for me. Aside from canceling a lot of teaching things with people I was looking forward to seeing, I couldn't go be a student anywhere.
Right.
And even inside our own firehouse, training got shut down. Everything was very, very limited. So you kind of had this stagnant area where now everyone's starting to break out of it, got to shake off the rust and get back to it. And man, I'm excited about that because nobody likes to sit there and do nothing for a while. So
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And the more you like to do, the worse it kind of punches you in the gut when you get shut down.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm going to lead off right in your wheelhouse, which is searchable versus survivable, and why and when we search. Start off right there, see how deep we can go as we talk about search and decision making. So I'll just let you run with it like you're teaching me a class.
Perfect. So the title actually came about because I think firefighters are smart people. But for whatever reason, we tend to go down these paths that we're led down and just kind of blindly follow them without really any real thought behind it. So over time, watching things unfold on the fireground, the term searchable versus survival came to me. And where that really was is it's terminology, right? I could say one thing to you and it might mean something different to somebody else.
Right on.
So what we're really after, I don't care too much about search profiling. I don't care about too much about the argument of tenable space or searchable space. We are after a search size up, right?
Ooh, I like search size up. I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, it keeps it simple, right? It's very straightforward. This is what I'm here to do. So we do a 360 for the fire. I mean, that's pretty beat into our heads. But are we really doing a 360 for our victims of that fire? Where can we get in? How can we get in here now? And I believe it was Chief Isaacson that said, "Searchability is up to us. Survivability is up to God."
Right on.
And that's kind of the whole premise behind it is. We got to stop writing them off before we even get in there and give them a chance.
Dude, I love that. I love that. Educated decision making on the fireground. So that's the name of the class, which is searchable versus survivable. Then the byline, educated decision making on the fireground. The second half of the title of the class. And And like I was talking to you before, I'm an outsider looking in because I have not taken your class, although I will catch it when I get a chance to catch it. It is more than just search technique. It's more than just, here's how to do a primary, here's how to do a oriented search, or here's VES. It's a mindset approach, almost about empowering the search before you ever hit the front door. So,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think firefighters today have more information than we ever have before. I mean, there's just incredible things happening. There's the UL studies that are coming out and showing us more and more things that we weren't aware of. There's things like Firefighter Rescue Survey,
right on.
which is grabbing data for us, which is instrumental in what we do. I mean, we have to know where we're successful, but we also have to know where we're not successful. So the whole educated decision making is we need to start using facts instead of fear. And a lot of times I feel that decisions are made because people aren't educated about that particular instance that's happening. Maybe they don't take a smoke reading class. Maybe they're not good at building construction or fire behavior, whatever the case is. So it's easier for somebody who's uneducated in those aspects to take more of a safety minded approach and not do anything.
Sure.
And say, well, the fire went out and everybody went home. So what I'm after with the educated decision making is, man, get in the books, read these studies, read these statistics that we're able to get through these surveys, and understand where we need to do our first things, right? Why am I going in this window? Well, because, from 2200 to 0800, this is where victims are most likely to be found, is in the bedrooms. So we're targeting the search. And we can only do that because we have the facts to back that up, right? So that's the education part.
Breaking down that data.
Yeah, we have to. I think, we're professionals, whether you're a career volunteer, paid on call, whatever your title is, we're still professionals, right? And we have to show up and do all those things that we said we were going to do. And for some reason, over time, I think we kind of fell to the wayside with that. And people became okay with that, and it's not okay. So we have to start kind of turning the ship in the other direction, so to speak.
No, absolutely. Now, just picking your brain, and this is me going down rabbit holes, but do you feel like that was something that the fire service lost, or did the public's expectation ever change about what they expected?
I don't think the public's expectations ever changed, right, to be honest. I mean, realistically, they don't really know what we do, right? They call 911 because their house is on fire, they have a medical emergency, whatever, and we show up, and that's good for them because they don't know any better. Hey, we came like we said we were going to.
Right.
Outside of that, I think what really happened is it just started getting more attention. Social media, everyone's got a camera phone now, like all these things that can capture what's actually happening on those fire grounds became less easy to hide it, right? So now that people's attention is getting captured and the focus is on, hey, you're in the hot seat, we see that all the time. Right. Fire happens and everyone's critiquing every aspect of that thing all over the internet. And so I don't think it's really the person who's having the emergency, the citizens, that change that. I think we as a fire service has kind of brought that on ourselves by not upholding the standard that we said we were going to.
Just kind of forgetting the oath almost, if you want to use that terminology.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was Chris Tobin, St. Louis fire, but he said the public's expectation is save my life, save my stuff. That was it. It doesn't get any simpler. Save my life, save my stuff.
Well, I don't know about you, but when I went through Fire Academy, I was taught this acronym, LIP, right? Stands for Life Safety, Incident Stabilization, Property Conservation. Those are our three main objectives. So life is number one, always has 100%. Been, hasn't changed. So to me, I think that's what fires me up about this is, if we can understand that and we write it in our textbook and we tell recruit firefighters this in training who have never even put bunker gear on before and they're learning to do what we do, those of us who are fortunate enough to get out there every day and do this, why are we not upholding what's right there? I mean, we said it, right? We're teaching it. 100%. So if you're going to teach something, then you got to do it,
No, absolutely. Now, and then, of course, I'm talking to you right now. I'm talking to Sean Duffy, the guy who teaches Searchable versus Survivable. So I live in an echo chamber with the people I talk to on a weekly basis. And that's the guys who stay fired up, the guys who are into the job, the guys who are spreading, the guys who uphold the oath. And they are the guys who have been on the front lines of the battle of our safety versus them, us versus them. Who's more important? And, that where the fire service, I don't want to say as a whole lost its way, but it seemed to have lost its direction for a bit. And there's been this shift back to, hey, we're here for them. And so do you feel like it's turned the corner on that? Do you, as you teach and things like that, do you feel like it's gotten better? Is it still the battle still waging? Where do you feel like it's at, basically?
Oh man, I mean, I think we still got a long way to go, but man, it's changing so much and for the better. I just taught a search class in Ohio, and man, every single person there was all about sets and reps. They
Nice.
wanted to get in that building. They're tired, man. We're putting them through the works. Those fires were hot, and they didn't care. They didn't care because they were there. I mean, we got guys from Texas. We had guys all over the country coming there for this 2-day search specific class so that they can get hands-on because they want to be better, right? Because when it happens, not if it happens, they want to be prepared. And when we talk about like successful rescues, that's not by accident, right? It's because people are coming to these classes and they're getting that knowledge and they're being trained and they're putting that dedication and preparation into making sure that they're able to function in that capacity. So the more and more I teach, the more and more I see younger generation, right? Which is awesome. Coming in, brand new firefighters, less than a year on the job coming in because they're not getting something that they need and they want to have it and they're hungry. And I love that, man.
No.
I think it's going to take a huge turning point here soon.
No, and it's hard not to be fired up when I can only imagine what it's like to teach people, like going to that this weekend and or whatever it was and teaching that and then seeing how fired up they are, seeing where they come from and all that, and just feeding that into you as you spread it. And so to me, that's exciting.
Oh yeah.
From all the teaching you've done, all the conferences you've taught at and things like that, what insight have you gained from the people you have met? And specifically, I want to address other people who want to become instructors, who want to give back.
So I find myself very fortunate because by no means am I an expert, right? I don't think that any of us in the fire service are experts. I think we strive to meet this high expectation, knowing that we probably never reach there, and that's the whole purpose.
We're striving to always get better and never feel like we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the point, right? So for me, the insight that I gain is I love going to other places, and the first question I ask them is, one, who has searched before? Okay, and usually not a whole lot of people. All right, who has actually put their hands on a victim in a fire, and that number decreases.
Right.
But what you find out when you start talking and you start asking these questions is find out how they operate, which is very, very different depending on where you go. But the end result is all the same, right? They may operate differently, but their objective at the end of the day is to be successful. And when they leave, I usually get one or two things. They leave a lecture. Hey, can I get a copy of that PowerPoint? Or, hey, can I get your information so that I can run some things by you? And, they're being shown things that for whatever reason, that's the first time they've seen it.
Right.
And that just goes to show you that things always change for us. So when they come to me and they say, I'm interested in becoming an instructor, what's my advice? Very first thing is be careful who you listen to. Lots of people want to be an instructor, but not all the time are they there for the right reason. Some people want to do it for money. Some people want to do it for the fame that comes along with it, whatever the reason. But when you're an instructor, you got to understand that you are directly responsible for what you're teaching to those students. So when they go to a fire and they do something that you taught them, that's on you. So that there's a whole other side of it. It's not just burning in a building and having fun and doing this. You're responsible, right? And that's a huge undertaking. So I tell them, just make sure you're ready for it, and don't teach something that you haven't done, and don't teach something that you're not knowledgeable in.
No, 100%. And I think it was Reinwald down out of Texas, and he posted that, man, make sure you're vetting these people that are trying to be instructors, man. Because Howard chimes in as I speak and says, very true, with an exclamation point. I'll catch you up here. Shane Bentley chimed in and said, and in all caps, oath we swore to uphold. Talking about what you were talking about earlier. And Gigi Galasso said, hi, guys. Good Friday the 13th. So catching you
All
up on
right.
some
Yeah.
comments.
So
But no,
there's Shane. Shane runs Bearers of the Oath, so he's all about
he
upholding that.
understands the oath a little bit. He might be
He
vested.
does. Yeah.
Fair
So I'll
enough.
give you this piece of homework. So when you get done with this, look them up and look up their values, like their mission statement. There's a
Okay.
whole list of everything. You won't be disappointed. So
Nice.
he's
Okay.
he's one of those pushing that. We got to stay true to what we said we would.
So Shane needs to be on the scrap, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I think that'd be a good thing.
We'll make that happen. And Howard is going to be on the scrap. In case you haven't noticed, I'm moving into my new house, and so my new office is boxes and chairs and boxes. So for everybody watching, I don't have my whiteboard to look when Howard's coming on, but it's coming up soon. So anyway, I'll throw that plug there in the middle of it.
That's a good show. He's a great chief and an excellent fireman. So you won't be disappointed.
Aaron Sparks says, "Stay in your wheelhouse when teaching," and I can't argue with that whatsoever.
Yeah, like I said, I'll throw it back to when I'm a student. I mean, you got to call BS when you see it, right? And sometimes you're sitting there and you're listening to these people talk, and they're trying to convince you of why you should do something or why you should feel a certain way. And when you challenge them, there's really no depth to what their response is. It's kind of a canned answer.
Sure.
And one of the things that I can't stand it is, well, I don't really know the answer to that, so I'll look it up and find it. Okay, I get it. We don't have the answers to everything, but you should have a general idea of what you're talking about and have a general direction to point somebody in. So saying I don't know, to me, that loses all credibility, and I'm not even engaged anymore.
I can see that. Although I'm a firm believer in, as a leader, being able to say I don't know is huge. So to me, it's counterintuitive. But as an instructor, I definitely can see where you could lose buy-in, especially if that makes sense. What I'm saying.
No, it makes perfect sense. And what I mean by that is, none of us are perfect. Like I said, none of us are experts.
Right.
There's a difference between getting a question. You're like, I need to do some more research. Let me get back to you on that, together, versus I'm going to teach you a skill.
Right.
And then I ask you a question about that skill.
Right. Okay.
And you say, I don't know.
Right.
So hopefully that clarifies.
Because I said so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, and it's crazy because, and I know the internet to say the internet's changed the fire service is an understatement of the century, but the internet's had massive impact on the world. But I point to our own department where we had these 3-piece Halligans that we had them for 15 years in my career, and I couldn't tell you that there was anything wrong with it. It was just a Halligan. Of course, now I know that that's not even a Halligan, not the point. When we had some young guys go to Wichita Hot and get taught forcible entry and learn what a real Halligan was and why it was tuned the way it was and everything about it, and find out so much about it. They completely changed our department. Now we have actual, pro bars on our rigs and making such a difference on our forcible entry. And so going to that and learning that and finding out those actual subject matter experts and learning from them is such a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was I saying? Okay, we've got more people chiming in. Holy crap, we got a lot of them. Okay, Robert Ramirez said, looking good. I'm assuming he's talking about Mr. Duffy himself. Ryan McCormack said, keep it up, Sean, with 3 exclamation points. Pablo Alex Genner Vanessa Johnson. That's a long one.
Oh, that's Pablo Jenner. That's my buddy, my partner in crime for Build Your Culture.
Okay. Pablo Jenner. So I'll say it right. Always teach with passion. Passionate people will be invested in their message. In turn, your audience will be invested in you. I love that. I'm going to like it.
Yep.
Mark, go ahead.
One thing that Pablo says, and I'll just throw that out there, is he's like, you could fake a lot of shit, but you can't fake passion.
Right on.
So.
Right on. Marco Isom said, we should all strive to be life learning students first. That's the only way to get better at our trade. I like it. Robert Ramirez, looking real good, Sean Duffy. This is one of the most genuine and talented up-and-coming guys in the business. Solid guest, great info, congrats. Thank you. That one's to me more than you, although you get the compliment.
Yeah.
Robert Ramirez said, very proud of you, bro. And Eric Johnson said, nothing but good stuff, massive knowledge. So now you're caught up. Lots of compliments coming, so I love to hear them, guys. Thank you for the comments. Keep them coming. Keep the questions coming. Now I want to switch gears on you.
Yeah, let's do
Although
it.
if you want to talk about more about search or survivability, it's completely up to you. But I'm switching gears on you and throwing and talking about culture.
Yes, let's do that.
It is a topic that I'm utterly fascinated with. Obviously, you're fascinated with it since you have the podcast and the webcast. I know it's a buzzword, but it's a buzzword for a reason. So here comes one of the broadest questions I have ever thrown at someone in a weekly scrap. And I'm going to say, Sean Duffy, culture, go.
It's defined by habits, and it's the personality of your organization. That's about the simplest I can sum it up.
Defined by habits, and it is the personality of your organization. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm processing.
Here's why I say that.
Okay.
So every fire department out there in this country has a vision statement, or a mission statement, I should say, right? And it usually goes something along the lines of what? To protect lives and save property, or whatever else they want to put in there. So when I say culture is defined by habits, that right there should be a reminder for you every single day of the culture you should be instilling within your organization, right? That is your objective, right? Because vision takes commitment. So if I had this vision and I had enough to put it on a t-shirt or my trucks or whatever, then I have an obligation to make sure that every member inside that organization has the correct habits to make sure that that vision comes to fruition. And, you know, it shouldn't be designed and implemented by default, right? It's very, very carefully planned, and you got to have the right people in your organization for that. So to me, with culture, that all starts from day one in the interview process, right? There's 3 things that you should be really focused on, and that's people, purpose, and performance. And why I say those are the 3 biggest ones is, if I'm interviewing you, I'm not just interviewing you to put an ass in a seat and fill a vacancy. I'm also, if I'm, doing this correct way, I'm interviewing you because I want to make sure that you have the same cultural mindset and values that I need within my organization, because eventually you're going to be a leader. Maybe not like an officer or whatever, but 6 months from now, a year from now, whoever or whatever, people are going to come in after you, and then you're going to be in charge of teaching them. So if we don't have the right people, right, set in place for that, doesn't matter what you do. You can have the best strategy, it's not going to work. Then your purpose. What is it that you're working for, right? If you have the right people and they feel they have purpose within your organization, you're going to see a lot of productivity. They're going to be more engaged, which is a positive thing, right? Morale goes up, all those things that we want to see. And then performance increases, right? So all those things, the right people that are there for the right purpose, they're going to do what they said they're going to do. And you're going to have amazing performance, and the rest is just going to kind of take care of itself in the long run. And you have a solid foundation to build upon from right there.
People, purpose, performance.
Yep.
I get it right.
Those are my big 3.
Normally I have pins here and I'm taking notes, and I just realized halfway through what you were saying, like, I don't know where my pins are at. So that's the state I'm in this move. But
it's all right. You're moving.
No, I get it.
No big deal.
Sean gets to live through my move with me here. But people, purpose, performance. I do like that. You mentioned the vision statement, and you said everyone has one. And I think you'll agree with this. A lot of people don't even realize what theirs is, or it's something that hangs on the wall and collects dust, And yes, no, maybe so. Do you think it's an integral part of every department out there, is what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think it is. And, it's something that's easily overlooked, and I don't think it's ever done on purpose.
Right. Okay.
There's just so much that goes on within organizations these days that, we're expecting people to wear multiple hats and do multiple things. And then there's the whole politics that you have to play with everything. And I respect a fire chief so much more when they have the gumption to just stand up and say, no, this is the fire department. This is what we're going to do. And this is why I put this up. There's a constant reminder. And why I say that's important for me is, some people don't put it on trucks. Some people don't put it on their shirts, but we need to be putting it where we can see it.
Oh,
And
100%. No, I hope
you
I
know,
didn't come across that I was doubting that. I was.
no.
Okay, okay.
No, you're good.
No,
Yeah, no,
okay.
I think that it's just something that's not instilled from day
Right.
one. Like when we bring people into our organization, it should be like an indoctrination. You know, you talk to anybody who's served time in the military, there's a whole indoctrination process of the way things are and why they're done this way. And I'm not saying that we don't do that in the fire service. I think we just need to do it more. So throughout like an orientation process, when you bring people in for the first time, they really need to be, you know, instilled with that mindset. Like, this is our vision statement. This is why. This is the expectations that I have for you. Not just welcome to an organization. Here's your 1 year probationary period. I hope you do well.
Right. Good
You
luck.
know,
Hope it
and
goes good. Hope you don't drift towards
yeah,
failure.
yeah, and you know when people like that come in, more often than not, they're met with maybe some disgruntled members of the department or whatever, who truly have kind of lost their way, don't really know why they're there anymore.
Right.
So having that for that young recruit, to come in and say, okay, I don't know what this person's deal is, but this is why I'm here, and I'm going to make sure that I uphold this part. You know,
Sure.
that's huge.
Oh,
That's huge.
massive. On the trajectory of not only that person's career, but the trajectory of the department and the department's culture. And so I'm going to hit you with some Scott Thompson, first of all, which he came in and said, are you all talking culture tonight? And said, never mind, because I think he realized he came in right in the middle of the culture conversation. Pablo hit you with good, and all caps, good or bad, everyone has culture. Which one do you have? And
That's a great point. And not to cut you off or
no,
anything,
run with it. Run with it.
I just want to address that right there. Good or bad. So we got to understand that, like, good or bad, culture is the trump card, right?
It exists.
That it exists. I mean, that's really the thing. So it's really up to you what you want to exist within your organization. And we have to understand that there are organizations out there that will fight for a toxic or negative culture, because that's just the way it is for them, and they don't want to do anything different. And there, on the other side, there are cultures that are open-minded to change. So when we talk about that kind of stuff, it kind of opens up another box. But what really we need to keep in, it's not what you're fighting against, it's what you're fighting for. And that's really where we need to keep our focus. You know, we tend to fight for a lot of things, you know, and we fight for stupid things in the fire service, to be honest.
You don't
like,
say.
You know what I mean? Like, ultimately, whatever you're fighting for, make sure it has purpose. Like, everyone's got an opinion, and that's fine, but does it have value? If it has value and it's going to improve your performance and it's going to make us safer, or whatever your objective is, then yeah, it's worth it. But if we're just having a dispute and you're just going around changing things because you don't like them and it's your personal opinion, that may not have a good benefit for your entire organization. You know, and we talk about something like change capacity. This is where people get confused with everything, is how many departments send out memos after memos after memos? A ton of them, right? You can be memoed to death and you don't even remember which one you read.
Hey, it's hanging on the board. Go read it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And you're like, oh, when did that change? Oh, it was in Target Solutions. You didn't get it? No. You know, what I'm saying with change capacity is we got to be careful not to overload our people, because I don't think that people intentionally do the wrong thing. It's just that they don't know they're doing the wrong thing, because last they checked, they're still trying to process and put into place what they were told to do last week. And then you went and changed it because you didn't like it anymore, you know, and that to me is a huge contributing factor when it comes to halting our progress.
Nice, dude. No, and I'm sorry, my mind's going a million miles as you say that stuff, because I think about, there's a book that I've literally been reading for like a year, and it might have been Scott Thompson who made me or told me to read it. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that. But it's Diffusions of Innovations, which is one of the most difficult reads. That's the reason it's taken me like a year. But it talks about the implementation of change in an organization or in a culture, and and everything what you're talking about is just spot on with all these things. So anyway, sorry, a rabbit hole in my own brain.
Yeah, no. Well, the other thing I want to bring up about culture, you know, when we're talking about like it being the trump card, is you got to be careful what you read, because that kind of stuff is designed purposely to attract people to an organization, right?
Okay.
So understand that what you read and what's actually occurring could be two very different things. right? So the only way to truly know culture is to experience a part of it, right? My department will have a different culture than yours,
Sure.
and so on, right? So really, I think what we're after when we're doing that is we don't want to imitate other people. We still want to be our own, but we want to enhance our best characteristics.
I like that.
And, you know,
So
I think that's going to take you.
let me question you, because you say be careful what you read. Are you talking about like social media wise, like Facebook posts from, or what are you saying as far as be careful what you read?
Yeah. So I'll put it this way, you know,
Sure.
and Pablo know what I'm talking about. Pablo and I, for a long time, we had the Central Florida Fire Tactics page. And long before I met Pablo, he was doing very well with that. And that particular page, what he posted and what he put up drew a certain crowd of people to the organization he worked in. Once they got there, what they were experiencing versus what they saw were very different. And that was no fault to Pablo.
Sure.
You know, Pablo is posting his passion and his beliefs and like what he feels is necessary to be a fireman, and the way we should be behaving, and taking care of your tools and all of those things. And
Right on.
obviously people were like, that's great. They found out where he worked. They
Gotcha.
instinctively,
Okay. No, that makes complete
you're
sense. Yes.
yeah. So they're like, I'm going there because, you know, he works there and look at all this stuff.
Right.
And then what happened over time is when they got there, they pulled Pablo aside and they say, what? Hey man, we came here because of Central Florida Fire Tactics, and this
Pablo's-
algorithm's off.
I get it. No, I could
You know?
I could completely get that if someone came to my department based off Firehouse Vigilance's post. So I
Right.
completely
So-
understand what you're saying.
So we have to throw a disclaimer out here.
100%.
You know, that you know, these are our views and our opinions, and by no means, you know, does that mean that what we say or do is 100% what's happening within our organization. Because hey, every organization's got stuff they need to fix. There ain't no such thing as a perfect one.
That's 100%.
So,
I'll get to that point in a second. I'm going to catch you up one more time.
Yep.
Scott Thompson chimed in and said, on the other side, great cultures with purpose attract great people who are elite performers. And so, yeah, that's that self-feeding cycle. That's that Ouroboros, that snake eating itself, is you can just keep on building on it. Marco Long said
absolutely.
yes with 5 S's. So I'm pretty sure you made a good point at some point back there. Robert,
I'm rambling.
no, you're awesome. Robert Ramirez said, preach, bro. Successful organizations understand that the best form of risk management is a healthy culture, and therefore place focus on their people and not just on things. That is really well said. Tyler Whitfield, awesome stuff, Sean. Tyler Whitfield said, and not be afraid of firing someone who doesn't uphold this or isn't going to continue that culture and tradition. That can be a tougher one depending on the department you're with.
Sure. And I think people, you know, we got to realize too, like I read this book. It's called Culture Wins. All right. And in there, they were talking about a time period. You know, we give 1 year for a probationary period, but realistically, it should take 90 days for somebody to hone in on their skills and know exactly what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And you as an evaluator should know within that 90-day period, this person is either something I can work with or it's something that I can't. And then you make the call. But what we tend to do is we tend to drag them along, hoping that people are going to get better.
Something's going to change.
Something's going to change. They have a whole
benefit
year.
of the doubt, maybe.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, what the case is, but then once you hit that year mark, hey, I'm off probation, and we just kind of forget all about everything. Now we're stuck with a 25-year problem.
Right.
So I do think that although the year is good, that at some point in that year, there needs to be an evaluation of, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you this. You have a year. You're at your 90 days. You're not cutting it. You got 30 more days. And if there's no improvement, I'm just going to let you go right now. I'm just going to tell you that.
100%.
Instead of saying, oh, I think they'll get better in 6 months.
Sure. Now, with the amount of, I don't know, when a municipality invests that much money into a guy, are they just trying to make their investment pay out? Is that something that just plays into it?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because when you look at the overhead that a department has from turnover, that could be upwards to like 6 figures. It's tremendous. And think about it from our thing. We have bunker gear, we have benefits, we have, you know, workers' comp that we got to pay. We got all of these things that we pay in for one person. So if they don't cut it and we just cut them loose and send them on their way, then we've got to hire somebody else. We've got to get them enrolled in benefits or a pension or whatever. And we got to spend time to retrain them and get them caught up. So it's this cycle that can easily turn into a money pit. And I think that people who pinch pennies are looking at that and going, well, I know that he's not exactly maybe what we need or what I want, but if I let this person go, it just costs me X amount of dollars, and it's going to cost me X amount more to hire somebody else to replace them. And I don't deal with budgets and everything like that. That's just my take on it. But I do think that may be a reason why we don't just cut ties when we need to.
Sure. No, 100%. All right, I'm going to try. Dude, you're getting a lot of responses. Formal mentoring, Scott Thompson said, plus formal mentoring is the quickest route to a chosen culture. And so I can't argue with formal, yeah.
It's, what he's talking about there could be summed up simple. We become what we accept. Plain and simple, right? If we're going to accept that we don't have mentors in our organization that are going to take these people under their wing, and we're okay with that, and we don't pick the right mentors, then you can't fault anybody but yourself for the reason why your culture is what it is.
No, and I think that's the formal, 100% in his formal mentorship and that recognition. All right, I'm going to try this one, Shane. This is from Shane Bentley, okay? And it's not quite a pun, but it's got a lot of quotation marks. So he says, take this chance, okay? Build your culture with a crew first mentality, resurrect that mission with a citizens first training mindset, set the example of what first due firemanship looks like, simply do your part, and take this chance to be a bearer of the oath and live with the fire inside of your Firehouse Vigilance. So
that took a lot of thought.
That did take a lot of thought. And so if you can identify each person behind each thing, then there's bonus points for somebody.
Oh, there's Shane and Lee, and then there's obviously you and Mark alone. You got Chris Kessinger from Crew First, or from Citizens First, and you got Jeremy Sanders from Crew First Culture. And there's a whole list of people in there.
You're nailing it out, man.
Mission Resurrection, Danny Dwyer, Chief Edwards. Just
awesome.
He went down that whole list, man.
There you go, max points.
Yeah.
Mark Alone says, sometimes people are scared to eliminate problems because they feel they won't be useful or necessary without something to fix. Speaking of...
Yeah, I could see that.
Crew First Culture, speaking of him, says Shane Bentley, haha, love it. All right, brother Shane Bentley. Pablo comes back in and says, culture, this is back at you. Culture starts with the station officer as soon as he or she sets the expectations with members. I believe the expectations should be done not only when new members come in, but also quarterly for his or her crew. That way, expectations will never be in doubt. Quarterly? I like quarterly. Because I try to do just an annual, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, so he's spot on there, and it's funny that he mentions that because that's what we do in my department. We have evaluations, and it's a whole sheet, and you don't know what's on that sheet. Our deputy chief will take you downstairs and he'll say, okay, he'll pick something off and say, tie me these knots. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Hey, throw me this ladder. How much hose is on this truck? What PSI does that nozzle flow at? Like whatever the questions are that he has on that list, you don't know. It's totally like just, hey, come downstairs with me. Boom. There you go. Hey, get your bunker gear on in 90 seconds or less, the proper way. So we do that every couple months, so there's a starting point. Yeah. And I love it because it's that gut check that you really need, and it's really humbling when you think you're at a certain place and then that happens and you realize, oh man, maybe I'm not there. Right. I got some work to do. And you have to be okay with that, right? A lot of people get pissed off and they're, oh, this is BS. Like this is crap. Well, when you're talking about being a senior fireman and you've been, with an organization for 14 years and you can't do simple fire recruit stuff, but yet you're tasked with training newer members of the organization, that's a problem, right? That's a huge problem. So having everybody on the same page at like, hey, this is going to happen. You better tighten up and be on point. I think that's like a self accountability thing. And it really, really does make a difference.
How is the, just picking your brain on this thing, cause I love it. Whenever you do fail, like he says, do these knots and you do fail, how is the remediation or is it strictly up to personal accountability? Is failure embraced as a chance to learn? Yeah.
So we're blessed, our chiefs have a good mindset,
Right.
and they just want everybody to be good. Our chief, when you hear the city of Venice, his vision is that like they're like, oh, thank God Venice is here.
Right.
Like that's what he wants for us, and he strives to maintain that all the time. So usually the first one is like, okay, this is where you probably should be. You were somewhere around here. Like now you know what you have to work on, but there's no excuse. If you get tested on that a second time and you're still deficient, there's going to be a problem. There's going to a conversation will take place, I promise. And that's coming from a chief level. And then if you go like my battalion chief goes to fire conferences all the time. My battalion chief
That's
runs
awesome,
it's great. Like I love it because he's all over the place, and he's got his own bags. He puts them in his battalion vehicle. He's got his through the lock bag. He's got his own New York hook, his own set of irons. He's got all of these things that are his personally, and everybody kind of laughs at him because he'll come downstairs with bags of stuff. But he's prepared. There's no question if you need something, Chief Blanchard's got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's his expectation for the crew. Hey, we're going to train, and you're going to be this good, right? And if you're not, we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to get you there, right? But you will not work on this shift if you don't meet these expectations, period. So he does have a high level of accountability for himself and for us too, which, again, really drives the culture in a positive direction.
Absolutely, man. When you set the bar with your own personal example, what more can be said? I went to a training this week, last Tuesday, and it was medical Mayday. Dave Mellon taught it at a fire department, Metro Fire Department here, and the BC with his white helmet was out there, fully bunked out on air, doing the drills with the guys, stripping the cats coming out of the Mayday out of their bunker gear to do CPR. And I asked the training officer there, and I said, "Hey, is this a normal thing with the white helmet out there doing?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "That's impressive, man." Well, he's not standing back in his white shirt.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the whole thing, right? You can't lead anybody further than you've led yourself.
Right on.
Period. And Chief Frank Viscuso says it the best. Like, a leader of one could become a leader of many, but if you can't lead yourself, you never lead any.
Right on, man.
And I mean that how do you follow up with that? I mean, that is so direct to the point and just in your face that, hey, look, man, you can't expect people to do things that you're not doing. Plain simple. And if you're asking them to do it and you're not right there behind them, then, expect to be called out.
Yep. Wasting that capital, man. This is a great problem for the scrap to have, is I cannot actually keep up with all of the great comments. I'm trying to throw them at you. Okay. So I'm trying, if you guys can hit the like button on the comments that need to be read to Sean, let me know. Pablo says culture starts with the station officer. Yeah, I got that one. Okay. I'm catching up. Marcus Ohm, this is replying to Mark, that you have leaders that are unable to because they don't know how, or they are more worried about people liking them instead of doing their job. You may have to sacrifice friendship for the good of the department. What do you think of that?
I think everybody wants to be liked. Absolutely. I mean, that's human nature, but ability is of greater need for me than personality. I rather know that you have the ability to perform than just like, he's a nice guy, I have fun talking to him,
No, 100%.
To me, like, personality can come later. I'll take the guy hands down every time that can do the work, that I know can do the work, and who's constantly raising that bar, who might be a little weird and have some personality issues, over the guy that everybody likes because he's the funny guy telling jokes at the kitchen table.
But can't accomplish it. And it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. My biggest problem is I have trouble differentiating between effort versus results. Does that make sense? Like when someone gives great effort, I want to reward it, even though they fall very short. And so for me, that's a part where I really have a tough time separating the effort versus the effectiveness.
Well, I'll put it this way. Keyword, you just said effectiveness. Now, people tend to get efficiency confused with effectiveness. So if I tell you like you're efficient, some people are like, yeah, okay. That's what a minimalist mindset is, right? Yeah, I'm efficient at it. I'm not good, but I'm not great. But effectiveness is, if I say, hey, take this line and stretch it to the fire, you know that you can estimate that stretch properly. You're going to take the best route of travel, and you're going to make the best entry point given the situation that you're in, versus, well, all you told me to do was pull the line from the truck to the front door, and that's exactly what I did. So what's the problem?
Right. I was efficient.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
100%.
Efficiency is what we're after. Or I'm sorry, effectiveness is what we're after. Efficiency, that's a starting point. Great, you're efficient. Now we got to get you to
Let's get
effective.
to the point, especially where you can understand my intent and you can capitalize upon it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, all right, I'm catching up. Guys, thank you for all the comments. I'm trying to get here. Oh man, that 90-day thing is so true. We waste so much time trying to fix people that don't want to be fixed. And that's from Mark Alone. Very true. I agree with the 90 days as our recruit academy is 9 weeks. And if 6 weeks in, you're not cutting it, I firmly believe that you have a couple to improve. And if you're not graduating recruit school and going to line to become that 20-year problem, 100%. All right. I'm Shane Bentley. This is Pablo to Shane Bentley, the real deal. I'd work for that chief any day of the week. I'm assuming he's talking about Blanchard, you said?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Chief Blanchard, and he's awesome. I'm
Awesome.
truly blessed. Really, really.
And Pablo came in to just capitalize on our point. And I'm catching up here. I don't need a nice guy. I need 6 assholes that know how to fight fire.
Yeah. Well, at least he didn't drop any F-bombs. That's PG-13 over there.
There, okay. It's Pablo censoring himself.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right
he
on.
is.
No, this is good stuff, man. Again, I apologize, guys, if I missed some of your comments. It's a great problem for the scrap to have. There's just so many coming in. I love asking this question, Sean, and anything you want to keep going on. Don't let me cut you off. But is there something you have learned in the last 15, 16 years of being in the fire service that an 18-year-old Sean would laugh at and say, I will never be that guy, or that will never be me? Something that's completely changed your mindset.
Yeah, just I mean, I'll be honest. I don't throw anybody under the bus other than myself. And this is something that Pablo and I talk about all the time when we teach, is the perks of the job before actually being on the job. And what I mean by that is, when I was 18, obviously I grew up. My dad was in public safety, so I was always around the firehouse. And all I heard, as a teenager and everything else, was how awesome it is. You get to take naps. There's recliners. You sit in the chair. You watch TV. Like, you're just hanging out with all your best buds.
Sure.
And all that stuff. So in my mind, I'm like, man, that sounds great.
It's the greatest job ever.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean I can get paid to go in and hang out with my best friends, play video games, like do all these things. And you know what? I'll be honest. That's exactly what I did for the first couple of years, because I didn't know any better. Nobody grabbed a hold of me and said, hey man, until one time on a fire, one of the guys that I was with pulled me aside and was like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And that was the turning point for me, of now looking back at it, of we really have to do a better job of telling people less about the perks of the job and more about the job itself.
Right on.
And what to expect. And we also have to, we got to do something along the lines of, when we're grabbing people, making sure they're the right fit, right? Nothing irritates me more than coming in and having somebody in a recliner who's retired and on duty. And what I mean by that is, they have 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, whatever, till retirement, but they're in retirement mode right now. Yeah. And that's all they care about. So for me, this job needs to be number one priority. If you're going to work for the fire department, you're working for the fire department. You're not coming to work at the fire department and sitting on your phone all day, getting lawn care accounts, right? That's not what you're there for. That's not what the citizens are paying you to do. And not saying that there's anything wrong with having a secondary job. Some people might need one, but you need to remain focused on your primary objective for 24 hours. And if you can't do that, then I think you really need to question yourself of, is this for me anymore? And should I just move on to this secondary job, which takes up a lot more of my time than I care to give into firefighting?
Right on. No, that's, and I worked under a culture that and this is painting with very broad strokes, because I'm not trying to paint everybody I worked with this direction, but the culture was the crew that could do the least were the winners, and the crew that could get assigned to the slowest station were the winners. You know what I'm saying? And it was just the culture the way it was. And there's been a shift since then away from that. I don't know if that's indicative of the entire fire service, but that was partly my experience early on in my career.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up, because one of the things that I've seen is, well, why did you sign up? Like, why are you here? right? You're here to run the calls. Otherwise, you'd stay at home. So it boggles my mind when I hear people say, well, I get paid the same to
I
go
get
to a
paid the same
station and
whether
run one
the
call.
tones go off or not. Yeah.
Right. I get paid the same.
100%.
Good. I'm
God.
like, man, you don't want to go to fires or something? Like, what's going on? And you'll have new people. And when I say new people, I'm talking about people who have like come into the fire service for the first time, and they're so scared of putting themselves in that situation where, oh man, God forbid you have to run 20 calls in a day. That would be the worst thing ever. So I'm going to put in a bid for a station where I might run one call every few days.
Right.
Well, you're just hurting yourself, because I know for sure you're not out there training, right? Because if you cared about your job and you cared about doing the job, you'd be at the station that runs the calls so you can get the experience. So to me, I think that's a problem that we see now, is that the younger generation, they're just lazy, and I know that I'm not insanely old, but what I'm saying is you got guys that are coming fresh out of academy that have never even seen a fire before, and they're automatically thinking about going to the vacation station, and that's their assignment. And to me, I don't think that should even be an option. But we give it to them, and if you give it to somebody, they're going to take advantage of it.
No, I again, it comes back to that culture, whether it's chosen, to use Scott Thompson's words, the chosen culture or the default culture. You're going to have one. And if you allow your young guys to drift towards the vacation station, then you get what you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So tactics are local. I don't think anybody is arguing that. But I firmly believe that culture is also local. And so that's one of the things that makes it tough to talk about, is not necessarily tough to talk about, but tough to pin down when you're not enmeshed in the culture that you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And you can tie that back to your childhood, right? You weren't raised the same way as your friends, right? You have different life experiences. Like maybe your family culture is different or whatever. You might live in the same neighborhood, but that doesn't make you the same.
Sure.
Right. So when you say local culture, I think to kind of expand upon that a little bit more, like look at your department. For me, my department is 3 stations. Every single one of those firehouses has their own culture.
Subculture, yeah.
Yeah, and there's 3 different days. So how many cultures do you have within an organization, really?
You get the microcultures of the subcultures of the culture, yeah.
You do. And, when you talk about size of departments and culture like that, again, just my opinion, there's definitely no data, I think, to support this, but just my observation is when you have a small agency, like we'll take mine, 64 members. Okay, you have 64 members. Generally, people know what's going on, right? And you're able to kind of steer them in the direction you want a little easier than if you had 700 plus members.
Sure.
What happens when you have larger departments is you get these like cliques of people that just kind of form their own separate agendas that are very different than what maybe the fire chief or the culture in that department is trying to go with, and they wind up fighting each other. Right. And then that just kind of spreads further and further and further. So I think there's that's something we need to evaluate when we're talking about culture and it being local.
No, I like it. Okay, catching you up one more time. I'll see. Okay, so we have Jeremy Mathis, who said road in all caps, ROAD. I'm not sure exactly what road is. It might mean something to you, so I just threw it at you.
Nope, I'm not sure what he's.
You have to clarify, Jeremy. So
maybe
Garrett Rice. Go ahead.
I was saying maybe he's talking about hitting the road.
I'm out of here. Done with this.
Yeah, exactly.
Garrett Rice says we need to hire our kind of weird. I put his quotation marks on it. Our kind of weird.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh, Jeremy Mathis. Never mind. I'm sorry, Jeremy. He actually clarified because I just realized it when I read this. Retire on active duty. ROAD. Road.
There you go. Yeah. That's okay. That sums it up right there.
My bad. I'm not good at reading the next comment down. Mark Alone said, put those people at the busy house. They will run themselves off. And then finally, Pablo said, same as the it's not my emergency mindset. God, dude, Pablo, dead on with that. When people say that, it drives me crazy. That's not my emergency. Fuckers love to wear a T-shirt and get a free coffee. And he forgot to censor himself, so I'm reading here. Get a free coffee at gas stations, but are not willing to do everything they need to do to earn that thank you or cup of coffee. And then
Yeah.
finally, last one, and we'll get back to discussion. I love how Sean says members. Now an old school term for many. Employees are there for a check. Members, however, are part of the organization. Words matter.
Absolutely. It's how you say things can be very different than what you say.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So we definitely need to be cognizant of how we choose to deliver our message, especially with our culture. And I'll bring it to this, and then we'll get back onto the discussion. Is if you have somebody who religiously doesn't put their gear on the truck, they show up after 8:00 in the morning, it's 9:00, maybe 9:30. They're not putting their gear on the rig until that first call comes in. How you approach that is going to make the difference, whether you have that individual have a change of heart or if they just want to say, okay, whatever. And now you guys butt heads continuously.
Sure.
Right. Chief Edwards says it the best. Changing minds requires changing hearts. So if we're going to try and implement or change anything in our culture, it's very, very important that you deliver that message in the way that it's understood and it's clear, right? There's no misunderstanding there. You don't want to come across in a manner that's going to tune someone out of what you're trying to accomplish.
Oh, 100%. And now I want to get clarification. I'm not trying to pin you down, but you're saying how you approach that person. For me, when the gear gets on the truck is the company officer has to set that expectation of when that's allowed. So
Absolutely.
Are you talking about some other member coming to that guy and saying, hey, we want this to be better?
Yeah, so everyone's way of operating is different.
Sure.
So for me, usually it's a 2-man engine. It's myself and my lieutenant.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
My lieutenant's very, very good. One of the first things that him and I both do together is put our stuff on the truck and we check it out together. And then we talk, hey, how's your family? How's yours? We have those conversations while we're doing that.
Right on.
But there may be a time where maybe the person that's on the truck, let's say it's a 3-man engine. The officer's upstairs still drinking coffee, hasn't put his stuff on the rig yet, whatever. The senior firefighter is yeah, whatever, I'm not getting to it. But you come in every single day and put your stuff on the truck.
Right on. Okay.
That's when that conversation is hey, man, we had a fire and I was pretty much in my air pack before we left this station. It took you guys 3 minutes to get in the truck.
Right.
Don't you think that you could be out of the apparatus bay a lot more, a lot quicker if you would just set your gear up ready for the call like you're supposed to do?
Sure.
So it falls back to complacency, really. They may be so accustomed to doing that. That's that normalization of deviance that we always talk about, that they've never been caught with their pants down doing that yet. So it just takes that one person with courage to speak up and say something to change
absolutely.
the whole course of that.
Okay. I like that. I'm sorry. I have to dig sometimes, and I'm making sure I don't get it wrong. All right,
no,
brother.
you're good.
I always like to ask if my guest has a book that they think firefighters should read. I have a list going on Facebook that you can go and click on, and there's Amazon links to every book suggested to a certain point because I am wildly behind on catching up all of the suggestions. But, Sean Duffy, do you have a book do you think firefighters should be reading?
Yeah, I'm actually reading it now. It doesn't have anything to do with the fire service, but it's got great points. It's
Awesome.
called Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's talks about resistance and how we overcome that. Whenever you set out to do something, there's always going to be some type of resistance, and it's going to come in all different forms.
Nice.
Maybe it's going to come from your friends and family. Maybe it's going to come from the workplace, whatever it is. It talks about how you overcome that and how to have the mindset and certain things that we need to be putting in place and understanding so that we could be successful. And some of the stuff it talks about is planning. So it kind of ties really well into that culture when we're trying to implement things or maybe design stuff. We really need to start at the end and then work towards the beginning. Because if we know what our end result is, where we want to go, then we can start putting plans in place from that point, working backwards. And by the time you get to the beginning, you'll know exactly how to implement this and how to do it. And I thought that was a really good point in that book. There's a lot of them, but it's really, really good. Kind of get you out of the fire service mindset and more into a personal, like, how do I manage myself? So that's what I like about it.
Do the Work by Pressfield.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome, man. Hey, I'm constantly getting books added to my to-read list, and my to-read list has never shrunk since I started doing the scrap. So I may never catch up. That's the point.
That's good.
That's awesome, man. No, I love it. Okay, so I do a thing on the weekly scrap every time, and it is the 5 questions for firefighters. The points are arbitrary, and it's completely up to your opinion, and you don't even have to defend your choices. So, Sean Duffy, are you ready for the 5 questions for firefighters?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, here we go. Question number 1. What is the number 1 issue facing the modern fire service?
I think for me, it's staffing.
Staffing. One word answer?
Well, I mean, staffing can lead to other things. Staffing can lead to frustrations, which leads to poor morale or whatever. But ultimately, we're being asked to do a lot with a lot less these days. And because of that is a huge issue, because if you don't take it upon yourself to know that, all right, so I only have 2 guys on my truck, but I still have to do the work of 4 or 5. I have to train that way so that we're, making an impact and we're doing things the proper way, then we're going to fail. We can't just accept that, hey, this is the way things are today. Right. So that's why I say I think it's a number 1 issue for me anyway, is people are just accepting staffing as, hey, that's the norm. And they're not looking past that of, okay, that may be the norm for now, but I have a lot of work I need to do so that I can perform the way that I need to.
So the answer isn't just nothing we can do about it. That's what we got. There's nothing we can do about it. I love this, man. I really do love this. This is what we are going to be having on this fire, so let's get good at it. Regardless of whether it's the way it should be or shouldn't be. We're not talking about that. That's what's going to be showing up when the tones drop.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that.
I mean, that's the reality we face, unfortunately. So.
Not going to lie. When you said staffing, you were not going to get max points, but once you explained it and I agreed, max points. So very good. It's very hard to do. Number 2, what is the thing you are most excited about for the future of firefighting?
Oh, man. All right. So bear with me.
Okay. I already like this answer.
The one thing that I am most excited for is what's going to happen in the next generation or so with all of these fired up members coming in who are hungry. They want that knowledge. They're going to these conferences. They want to implement positive change. Those are the guys that we need, right? And we're going to be in a time where we're going to have a mass exodus soon. Right. All throughout the fire service, guys are retiring in large numbers, and this new wave that's coming in is going to be the new guard. And I think they're already setting themselves up for tremendous success, because when you look at who are at these fire conferences and who continually goes to training or is on shows like this, it's not guys that are getting ready to retire generally.
Right on.
It's guys that are being guided in this direction, who are passionate and determined to fight for a better fire service, because they too are frustrated with, well, this is just the way it is. So when those guys get in, and man, it's going to be amazing. They're going to start getting into those positions where they can affect change. Maybe they're going to be a company officer or a chief somewhere. That is going to be amazing to watch.
Oh, there's no doubt, dude. That is a great answer, because it just makes my brain think about the people, like the amount of information, like, drowning in information, starving for wisdom, but the amount of information, and then you take those fired up people taking that information and finding that wisdom and then pushing it forward. And what is that going to look like, man? No, you spot on, dude. Yeah. That's a great answer. So question number 3, best rank position to be in the fire service.
Jump man. Backseat firefighter.
Okay, I was like, what's the jump man? I don't know this term. So
yeah, the backseat firefighter for sure. That is the most fun.
That's it, period. So, end of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you get to, again, these are just my opinions.
No, absolutely. That's all this is.
That's where you get to do the most work, the most things, right? I mean, you could be catching a hydrant on one fire, you can be stretching line on the next, you can be assigned to search, or if you don't have a truck company, like, you might be assigned to the roof. And the ability to perform vast aspects of this job is right there in that seat. And I think that's the best seat in the house, personally.
100%. Dude, I can't argue with you because, I mean, when you talk about kicking indoors and saving babies, it is the backseat firefighter. That's what it is, man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Number 4, the best advice you have ever received.
Oh, man. Here's one for you. Don't change who you are for convenience. All right. And what I mean by that is I found myself being very, very frustrated because I'm a certain way. I have my certain beliefs and things and my certain views in the fire service, and I was just getting beat from all directions.
Sure.
And this advice didn't even come from anybody in the fire service, to believe it or not. This this advice came from a family member who heard me talking about it on the phone, and when I hung up, they were like, "Listen, don't change who you are for convenience, all right? Because then you're not staying true to yourself and you're just submitting, right? You got to fight for what you believe in, and that's the problem. Is too many people they get used to being silenced, and once they get silenced, their whole mindset and their whole behavior changes.
Right on.
And I refuse to be that way. So
don't change who you are for convenience.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. All right. I'll give that max points for sure. Number 5, the final question, the 5 questions for firefighters. You have heavy fire and tenable space. So I'm asking searchable versus survivable guy. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
Oh, that's a no-brainer. I'm taking the window.
Okay.
First in VES all day long. If there's a search to be made, I want to do it.
All right, fair enough. I thought it was a no-brainer considering who my guest was today, but I was not 100% sure.
Yeah, I've had a nozzle in my hand a lot of times, and it's fun. It's a blast, and I'm not taking away anything from people who like that. But man, searching's, to me, that's the job I want every single time if I can get it.
Like it. I like it. And there it is. The 5 questions for firefighters, according to Sean Duffy. Thank you, sir. Excellent answers. Best place to contact you. How do people get in touch with you? Book a class. Anything you have coming up. Anything you want to plug, basically. Go.
So the best way to contact me is either through our Facebook page, the Build Your Culture Facebook page, or my personal Facebook page. Shoot me a message on there. I'll get back to you. We do have an email. You can either email me, which is duffy558@gmail.com, or you can email the page, which is buildyourownculture@gmail.com, either one of those. And then if you have to call me for whatever reason, you're more than welcome to. Just shoot me a message. I'll give you my number. As far as things coming up, man, there's a lot. Yeah, I got some.
And we're coming off 2020 where no one had anything coming up. It's like, well, just shoot me an email. But now it's like firing back up, man. It feels good.
Now, oh man, it's outstanding. I love it. I do some classes for Task Force 1. They have an online training division, so I'll be doing 2 of those this month. One is on culture, and then what do I got? One's on culture, and the other one is on mindset.
Nice.
So we got those coming up. February, so Orlando Fire Conference will be with my good friend Joey DeVito and his company Tick Tips, doing a thermal imaging class there. Lots of stuff around the country. So
that is awesome.
And I'll post it up there. I don't want to go on this long list,
sure.
But I will post it up on the Build Your Culture page for anybody. And then if you want to get involved with anything that we are doing, by all means, let me know, and we can book a class for you or do whatever you want to do. So
that is awesome, man. No, that's cool. And it's good to hear people getting getting stuff lined back out and happening, man. It needs to happen. So,
oh yeah, it does.
That is awesome. Okay, so coming up on the scrap, I'm going to try and look. My whiteboard is actually sitting on the floor back here. I've got Andy Starnes and Howard Reinwald are the next 2 guests. I'm not even going to try to read the rest of it. So next week is Andy Starnes. After that, Howard Reinwald. So it's looking to be a next couple good weeks. I think it's awesome, man. I feel like we didn't even touch on some stuff that I wanted to touch on with you. Like you just said mindset. Yeah. I'm like, man, I wanted to ask him about some mindset stuff. But it was an unbelievably good scrap. I hope you'll come back in the future and we can dig into even more stuff. I'm going to catch you up on the last of these comments that people took the time to say. And Shane Bentley said, I love resistance. It creates challenge. Nate Schuler said Bearers of the Oath. Hannah Elliott chimed in and said maximize your capabilities, talking about the two-man engine company, I think, and knowing what you're going to reply with. Mark Alone said Sean Duffy equals the future of firefighting. So that is a huge compliment from a huge dude.
Oh yeah, that was too nice of him.
And Mark Alone is a very nice guy. So Nate Schuler said driver when you said backseat firefighter, and Dallas respectfully disagreed by saying drivers don't get to play. Nate Schuler said Duffy is spitting facts. And Nate Schuler then supplied maybe on B shift. They don't get to play. But awesome work for Shane Bentley said, awesome work, fellas. I will row in your boats any day of the week. Thank you, Shane. That's a huge compliment. I know you meant it for Sean. And 2021, Nate Schuler said, let's go. Mark Alone said, solid as always. Duffy kills it again. Strong work, brother. Sean, dude, you were an unbelievably good guest. I had a good time tonight. I might have to figure out some way to incorporate the comments more because I'm very bad at it, and it's really picking up. I think it's Sean's fault, but
yeah,
there was a lot of them, man. So I hope they didn't distract from you too much on your message. But man, you handled it great.
No, not at all.
So
not at all. Thank you for having me on, and anytime you want to talk,
I'll bring
we'll
you
get
back.
on this
I
thing.
promise you, I'll bring you back. So it has been a good time.
For sure.
Thank you for being the guest on Weekly Scrap number 58. For everyone who with the questions and comments, thank you for tuning in. And I hope the tone stays silent. Unless it's burning, stay safe out there. Thank you, Shane. Sean. I read Shane.
Yes.